There's no doubt that the COVID situation over the past couple of years have a large impact on not just education, but also in all sectors around the world, right? Not just our country, but also other countries as well, in development world or developing worlds and so on and so forth. The answer can be, it can be a plus and minus at the same time. Again, this is the situation that we are facing. And I think one of the things that I think this is very fortunate because the government has been doing this from the past, and I think understand that this is already initiated by our late King Rama IX, talk about the philosophy of the SEP in terms of using the capacity that we have. For example, one of the good example is distant learning. A lot of the government programs on television have been in place for many years. We have the infrastructure. We have, I think, one of the Wang Gai Gan Won Learning Center, which is already have been on for quite a number of years. And those one are something that we can utilize and replace the on-site or the internet online education, because a lot of the people in the different community can access the television network, and that is something that we already have in place. The post-COVID situation, it's still there are the light at the end of the tunnel. And again, I think we stressed this many times that it brought the best out of a lot of people, especially in terms of the compatibility and the uses of technology in education. And this is something that, the time before COVID, there's almost not present in the technology in education. For example, I think we remember last time when we went through the process of the AUNQA, which is looking at the quality of our program. And one of the recommendations from the assessors talked about the implementation of online learning. And during the time, we had no idea. We know what it is, but we had no idea how to do it. During the last couple of years, we have a lot of infrastructure. We have a lot of the different combination method of delivering the knowledge, and also we have some of the right resources that we can use. So therefore, together with the technology in education, those can be combined and can be used in strengthening the education from within our own country. And that is something that we can see some positiveness that coming out from the situation, from the COVID situation. Now, a lot of education looking at the SEP in terms of they need to understand, work with their child in the way that they need to put time and effort with them. Right? And that is very important because the younger kids or the younger children, the part of the learning process does not really come from school. I think it's only half of it or less than half of it come from school. Most of the part will come from their parents. And that is something that I think the SEP also teaching us, that to be moderate, to be reasonableness and maintain that sort of risk management procedures. Again, we need to try to teach our child and brought them up in the way that we wanted to do. So that means we have to put a lot of time and effort into with our children. When you are looking at the SEP, you have to look into the component of the SEP. So as we talked about, and a lot of people knows it already, the SEP talk about the moderation, reasonableness, and risk management. So those are the key aspects into the SEP. And these key aspects will allow us or allow the students to understand their own strengths and weaknesses. So to understand the capacity of each individual student, and do not think that we have to build everybody come out as a block. For example, I think we have a lot of people in Thailand saying, I want my kids or I want my children to become doctors or nurses or something like that. And that is not, everybody do not do that, right? So that is, to understand that aspect is that we need to understand that each of the students, they have own capacities. Each of the students do not need to become, in the same standard. And the key here is to maintain the flexibility, because the flexibility and the applicable in terms of technology, applicable in terms of the understanding the new society, right? The changes in society. Well, in my opinion, in order to integrate the SEP into the policy is that they need to understand the key component, and the key components are the moderation. And that is, again, one of the most important aspects of of the SEP. Again, it's very challenging for the educational sector in terms of understanding and implementing the SEP. One of the most important things that, from my perspective and my recommendation, is that they should maintain the flexibility. We need to understand that education and knowledge changes all the time. Similarly to the way that the technology changes, knowledge in terms of education changes a lot faster. And I think the rates of changes has become a lot more faster than what happened in the past, right? So the thing that we want to put forward for the policymakers is that they need to maintain the flexibility in their policy. So, for example, when they initiate their policies in the next couple of years, when the situation changes, when the technology changes, they are willing to change that kind of policy as well.